So can we talk about Boston comedy?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, Boston comedy. So, I've been playing Boston for years. Faneuil Hall, we started there, right? And then
I love that room.
Yeah, and then
the old Comedy Connection.
Yeah,
Bill Blumenreich's place. That was the dream. That was as big as the dream was.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, when I was starting out, you wanted to get the HBO special. Everybody has I want to thank the Academy with an Oscar and shit like that. But the reality was I remember when we would sit back. Me and Dane would sit in the back.
Dane Cook.
Yeah, at the back of the club on like a weekend, or like Anthony.
And you saw me with all the babes go on.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Anthony Clark. Yeah.
And all of those guys just selling out like 4, 5, 6 shows, and it was like a 400-seater. And we were working this place around the corner called the Comedy Vault. That was it was an old bank that they turned into a restaurant, and the green room was in the bank vault. And you walked out and it had these old wooden chairs, and there would be, you know, maybe like, if they packed the place, there'd be maybe 30 people in there. So, which they didn't. So just to watch somebody be able to draw 400 people a show for 4 shows, 1,600 people.
Did you know a comedian named Drake Sather?
I know who he is. Yeah,
He's fucking funny, dude.
Incredible. I mean, he was that
fucking awesome.
One of the best young comedian specials ever, hosted by Dennis Miller. It was him, Rob Schneider. God, I used to know everybody who was on that.
So Anthony Clark. So he's a Boston comic, right? So
David Spade was another person on there. I'm just going to name everybody on that special. Sorry, go ahead.
No, so Drake Sather, I knew him from when we did the MTV half-hour comedy hour.
Right.
From back then when Mario Joyner used to host.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I watched all those. That's the first place I saw Chris Rock. It's the first place I saw Adam Sandler. I still remember his Elvis in the refrigerator bit.
Wow.
It's the first place I saw Louis. And all of them stood out, too. They were already, like, special. Like, you were like, you know, and then as I watched them, it was so crazy. When I saw the half-hour comedies hour, and then I saw that Dennis Miller HBO thing, and then all of a sudden Spade and Schneider were on HBO, and then Chris Rock was on there, and so was Sandler. So I was such a nerd for comedy. I was like, oh, that's that guy from the half hour. Oh, he got on that. Oh, that's great. And then like you get like excited watching them becoming bigger and bigger parts. I still remember like the sketches that sort of like broke them out, like Schneider when he would just do like the name Paulo Rama. That thing was the big thing for him. Red hooded sweatshirt and the desk piece for Adam. And David Spade, I remember he did this send up of like a shampoo commercial that I thought was great.
And this was on MTV's half hour.
This was on SNL. I was just watching them all come through. And then Chris, they would always seem to put him on late. If he got on, they always seemed like
on SNL.
Yeah, they always stuck him on like the last sketch or something like that.
Yeah.
But
did you work? Did you work when you went to New York? Did you ever work the comic strip?
Oh yeah.
You know, with the stand-up, and then you got the mirror in front of you?
Yeah, that was huge. That was a huge one to get in on that
one. With Louis, right? Louis Ferranda?
Louis Ferranda was Caroline's.
Yeah, but before that, when he first started, he worked there.
He worked at the comic strip? I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's when I showed up with Faison Love when I was like 20 years old. And he wouldn't let me on because I was Mitzi's son. He's like, no, you're Mitzi's son. Get out. Not in a mean way, but in a nice way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he put me on, but it wasn't like.
I still remember the voicemail he left. First time I sent them a VHS tape.
Wow.
Way back when I first moved.
He's the best.
It's like, hello, Billy. This is Louis Ferranda from Caroline's. I watched your tape. You're very funny. I was just like jumping up and down, like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Caroline's. Yeah, it was the biggest thing. To this day, well, I can't say to this day because the comedy has changed so much in New York, but right up until about last summer, it was still such a thrill to be able to get on stage in New York City and be like, wow, these people still, I mean, that still exists, but like, you know, I just feel like, Jesus Christ, it's like the whole fucking NYU campus comes out to the comedy shows and groans. When I'm on stage in New York, I feel like I'm standing on somebody's foot. It's just like, what the fuck is going on?
Because their feet are there and you're at the cellar, you mean?
No, because they're going, the whole time. Right. The whole fucking time. I couldn't, and you know, I getting older and you get corny, but I shouldn't be shocking you. As a 52-year-old person, I should be a cornball. And they're groaning like 80-year-olds on a fucking cruise ship. It's the weirdest. I think that these generations that have come by are going to have the biggest like midlife crisis. Because I feel like the I don't know what their heads got filled up with. They are not able to let their hair down. You know, and just act like idiots. It's just like, I think the sort of the surveillance generation where they're just constantly on camera. Anything they do, somebody can just say that they did something. They live in sort of like a police state campus.
And you think people are entitled now because of they have phones and their own shows and their own TV and their own, you know, more entitled?
I don't think they're entitled. I just think they are. I think that they are sort of victims because we're the sort of first wave of seeing how this affects your life, either positively or adversely. And I think that there will be, you know, whatever. Pandora's box is already open, but there will probably be some sort of pushback or certain sort of laws, you know, hopefully that will be made out there to sort of protect people and let them have some sort of a
freedom,
like, privacy and stuff like that. Because I always see, like, you know, I did a lot of dumb shit and embarrassing stuff happen to me when I was a kid, but it wasn't filmed.
Right.
And there's just like certain people who just get like this infamy for, you know, the way they cried or how they fell off or got hit in the balls and something. It's just like that guy or that woman, they're going to be 30 years old someday.
Yeah.
Trying to be taken seriously as an executive or something. And someone's, this is the fucking guy, you know, who got the ping pong shot up his ass or something.
So I want to bring you back to Boston because that's your home.
I wanted to stay with ping pongs up the ass, but I mean, I don't know. It's not my show, right? I mean, you know, whatever.
So Hukilau, let's talk about the Hukilau.
Oh yeah, out in Chicopee, right?
That was my room for many years.
Yeah.
Bill used to come back there and order a fucking steak this big and just sit there and he'd put his thing on right here and he'd just, hey Pauly, how's your mother? How's the store? What's going on? You know, hey,
I'll tell you, this Live Nation is killing me.
That's the way he talks.
Live Nation is fucking killing me. I fucking hate Live Nation.
But do you I want to say, do you remember, what was your experience with Bill at the Hukilau? Tell us about the Hukilau room. It was a very
I was just telling you in general, I miss
that.
living on the East Coast and the way it was. I miss all of that. I miss my friends. So many of my friends have passed on, and you know, I miss sort of the camaraderie of when you're starting out, when you have that whole group of open micers and you're all helping each other out and all going up and in these impossible situations and just bombing and just being like, all right, well, he bombed. Now it's my turn to go up there, see if I can get him, and then laughing about it and then just talking comedy. You know, we used to do the Kowloons up on Route 1. And we would always do the show, and then just afterwards we would just stand in the parking lot for like fucking hours and just talk about what we wanted to do in the business, dreaming about being a comedian that could, you know, sell tickets at the Kowloon on Route 1 or Giggles across the street. And
so did you play Hukilau a lot?
I didn't play Hukilau until I left, and then I came back. I feel like maybe like right before I left Boston in '95. One of the times I opened for David Alan Grier out there. And he was amazing, of course. And
but tell us about the room. It's a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, it's a Chinese restaurant, and in the back they have best. Like they have like for some reason comedy in Chinese restaurants like from day one. Like the Hukilau, the first one was a Chinese restaurant in like Cambridge or something, and they had a room, and the whole Boston scene just. The scene that we now know started there because Jay Leno was there before, but he used to work like Lenny's on the Turnpike, like a jazz club, and some places in the Combat Zone and shit. But this is what started.
It was like poo-poo platters, and you know, and then big Mai Tais, and you're on the stage. You felt like you're in Vegas, like the old Flamingo Hotel.
And the best Chinese food, Americanized Chinese food in the country is in Massachusetts. I don't know why people don't. I mean, it'll kill you, but it's crab rangoon, the poo-poo platters, the egg rolls, the chicken fingers, the duck sauce. All of that is just like whenever we go back. Me and my wife, like we got a spot on a couple of spots, Route 1 or something like that. We just hit it and just eat that stuff.
Yeah. Do you go to the North End a lot when you're home?
I love the North End.
Yeah.
I actually got. I did a. I had an
beautiful.
acting gig, and I got to stay out there for a whole summer.
Oh wow.
I was doing a movie called The Heat.
Okay.
Which they shot in Somerville, some of it in Somerville, which is amazing to me because when I left Massachusetts, Somerville, when I was growing up, it was called Slummerville. And it wasn't, it was a tough neighborhood and that type of shit. And then,
and this was the North End?
No, this was close to it, but they had us staying at a hotel in the North End.
Okay.
So I actually got to learn about all these cool spots in the North End because back in the day, the way Boston was, North End was all Italian. So if you went there was the one street that went down, began with an H, I forget what it was, but that was the touristy street, and you were okay if you stayed on that street.
What about the cannolis in the North End? You walk by and you see them, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
So if you went off that street, you would be in trouble. It was weird. Like even white people were segregated. Like South Boston was Irish, Italian was in the North End and that type of stuff. So you kind of had like these streets you could be on to a certain hour, and then you had to kind of leave, and then that was the deal.
And then back to the Hookey Loud. Did you do those 3 gigs for Bill ever? Bill Blumenreich? Because he always booked me and several other comics. He would do the Faneuil Hall, and then you would do the Hookey Loud, and then one other place that's on the outside. Boom, boom, boom.
You do the one up in New Hampshire, or you do the one down in Rhode Island? I did.
I think Rhode Island. Did you never did any?
Rhode
of that
Island was the tent in the parking lot.
Oh, okay.
And I'd always do it in like July because it was like the summer thing, right?
Yeah.
And there's no AC, and you'd sweat through a shirt in the first 10 minutes. I just remember it would just be stuck to your chest. I did that a number of times. His gigs were always fun, and he always paid.
Yeah.
He was a bitch to get to book you. Because he wouldn't fuck with you until you were selling tickets.
Selling tickets.
But once you sold tickets, then
you were in his.
He still is the greatest guy. I love working with him.
Yeah, he was great. And then I remember the first time I ever went to Boston was with Sam Kinison when I was opening for Sam Kinison. Wow. And I was playing everywhere, and we went to go see Mark Parento.
Yeah, yeah.
We went to go see him. Mark Parento's like the Howard Stern of Boston. He was the biggest DJ, and he was cool as fuck. At least he was to me.
He was on from like 3 to 6 or
but it was
2
like,
to 5 WBCN.
Yeah.
And they had like all of their whole day was like just rock star. They had the Big Mattress morning show with Charles Laquadera. I forget the lunchtime guy. Then it was Mark Parento. It was the whole. But
we did the softball thing. Because he did with Mark Parento's softball.
Yeah.
And then Sam was there, and I was there. But that was the first time I ever been to Boston was through Sam. And Sam says to me, he goes, "We got to go meet this kid. He's recording an album, around the corner." And I told him I would stop by, and it was Mark Wahlberg. It's when he was Marky Mark.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he was like 16 or 17. So I got photos with me and Kinison and fucking Mark Wahlberg. And he was just
wow.
like, you know what I mean? And it was pretty cool. But I played a lot in Boston with Sam. Boston was always really good to me, and I miss Boston.